Hello everyone, welcome back to my data science learning series. Till today we have understood about data, data visualization, data preprocessing and exploratory data analysis. But from this video onwards, we will go into the world of machine learning model development. So the very first model which we will be developing today will be from the regression. But before moving on to the model development, let's first understand what exactly is regression. So basically regression is a statistical method which is used to understand the relationship between the different variables and also predict the value of one variable based on the another. So we'll see the entire regression in a nice chart, but let's first understand what are the different types of regressions. So basically there are two different types. One is simple linear regression and one is multiple linear regressions. Both of them are linear equations, but the difference between these two are that in simple you have a single independent variable and a single dependent variable, whereas in the multiple linear equation you have multiple independent variables and a dependent variables. So dependent variables को हम लोग ये भी बोल सकते हैं कि आउटपुट, कि एक इनपुट पे एक आउटपुट होगा. In multiple linear you have multiple input, so multiple independent variables and a single dependent variable, which means a single output will be there. So let's understand both of them in little more detail. So first we'll start with simple linear regression. So like I mentioned, simple linear regression is a regression technique where you model the relationship between a single independent variable and a dependent variable using a linear equation. So for example, let's say you have to predict the house price based on the size of the house. So size of the house would be your independent variable and house ka price would be your dependent variable. So basically size based on this input, which is size of the house, give me the output, which is house price. Same way, based on the advertising expenditure, give me the sales revenue. Same way, you also have one input and one output, where let's say you have a distance it needs to travel, predict the delivery time of a package. So basically if you see in all of these examples, we have one independent variable, and based on that one independent variable, we are predicting one dependent variable, which is just that the output of that model. Now let's move on to multiple linear regression, which is just an extension of simple linear regression, where you are going to model the relationship between multiple independent variables, which means multiple input and a dependent variable using a linear equation. So multiple input and one single output, that is something called as multiple linear regression. So if you see the example, so let's say कि now the example is कि based on the multiple features of a house such as size, number of bedrooms, location and कितना पुराना वो घर है, based on all these input you predict the house price. So previously in simple में हम लोग just based on the size we were predicting the house prices, but in cases of multiple linear regression you have multiple input and you have one output. Same way, based on the company's का market trends, news sentiments, financial indicators, predict the stock price of that particular company. So these are all the examples of multiple linear regressions. Having said that, now let's move on to our Jupyter notebook, which is also available in my GitHub repository. You can access it anytime. So first, let's understand what are the key concepts of linear regression and how does linear regression work. So if you see, there are few key concepts like dependent variable, independent variable, which I already explained. This is nothing but the variable which we are going to predict. This will be our input on which we will be making the prediction. Then there are data points, which is like every x and y value pair को हम लोग data point बोलते हैं. Then there is a regression line, which is the best line which fits the data points which are present with us. Then slope, intercept and random error. We'll explain these three things little later, but let's first understand ki how exactly this y ka value we are going to predict in linear regression. So if you remember the mathematics of your schooling days, so this was the linear equation ka formula, where y equals to a plus bx we used to write. Some people also used to write mx plus c. So anything, all of these formulas are same, where y is the value which we are going to predict based on x, and a is nothing but the intercept of the line, and b is the slope key. What is that slope will be there of my line. So based on that we will be calculating the value of y. So how do we calculate a and b will come little later, but let's first understand ki how does this regression graph look like. So if you see this particular graph here, so here we have independent variable on x-axis, dependent variable on y-axis, and this is our regression line. This gets calculated by this formula y equals to a plus bx, जहाँ पे a is nothing but the इंटरसेप्ट कि कहाँ पे ये लाइन इंटरसेप्ट हो रहा है, जहाँ से ये शुरू होने वाला है. Then b is the slope ki what is that angle of this particular line, and that is something called as b. So based on a, b and x, we are going to calculate the value of y. And if you see some other concepts like random error and all, so all of these points which you are seeing are called as data points, and the distance of this particular point to this line is called as the error in the prediction. I hope it is now clear. Again, independent variable x-axis, dependent variable y-axis, intercept from where this regression line is going to start, slope, इस लाइन का एंगल क्या होगा उसको स्लोप बोलते हैं, एंड बेस्ड ऑन दैट वी विल बी प्रेडिक्टिंग द वैल्यू ऑफ y बेस्ड ऑन द ईच गिवन नंबर ऑफ x. नाउ लेट्स सी कि हाउ डू वी फाइंड द वैल्यू ऑफ a एंड b. तो उसके लिए भी एक फॉर्मूला है विच लुक समथिंग लाइक दिस कि दिस इज हाउ यू कैन फाइंड द इंटरसेप्ट, दिस इज हाउ यू कैन फाइंड द स्लोप ऑफ योर गिवन रिग्रेशन लाइन. बट अभी ये फॉर्मूला देख करके डोंट गेट स्केयर्ड कि यू नो डू आई हैव टू रिमेंबर ऑल ऑफ दिस फार्मूला. नो, you don't have to remember, you just have to know the concept ki haan this is the concept behind the linear regression, and all of this formula and all of these things will automatically be calculated for you when you are going to develop your model. So now having said that, we will move on to the model development. So the model which we will be developing today is ki let's consider ki based on the given square feet of my house, predict the house ka price. So what I have done is I already have created a sample data set for all of you where you have total square feet in one of the columns and then corresponding house prices in the next column. So using this data, we will train our model and we will also predict the house prices based on the unseen data set. So the very first thing which we have to do is we have to install the scikit-learn library, which is an open source library which comes up with multiple models where you have classification, regression, clustering and many other models available. So we'll use one of its regression models, which is a linear regression model, and using that we will train our model based on the given dataset which we have. So to do that, we just have to run this cell which is pip install scikit-learn, and then the scikit-learn library will be installed in your environment. Now moving on to the next section where we will first import all the necessary libraries which we need in this particular model building. So pandas, numpys and matplot सबसे पहले हम लोग ये तीनों को basically import करेंगे, and then I have this particular Excel or CSV file which name is Bangalore house data, and first I'll kind of load this cell, and you see this is the top 5 record of my this particular CSV file, total square feet price. Now let's also plot all of these 85 or 84 records in a scatter plot. तो उसके लिए सबसे पहले plt.scatter करेंगे. This is my x axis, this is my y axis, and I want all of my data points in blue color. And then we are also giving some title, x ka level and y ka level, and then based on that let's basically see how does this data set look like in a scatter chart. So if you see based on the square feet, house prices have been predicted ki somewhere if you have 1,000 square feet, then in this range your house prices would be there. Alright, so now we will move on to the part where we will build our very first model, which is linear regression, a simple linear regression model, where we first have to import two things from the scikit-learn. The first thing is sklearn.linear model से import linear regression model, and also import train test split. So basically this train test split will automatically split our dataset into training dataset and also in the testing dataset. And now let's assign x ka value, which is our kind of independent variable where we have total square feet, and y value, which is our dependent variable which we are going to predict, assign it as price from the df which is there with us. Now like I mentioned, this train and test split basically splits the data set into the training size and the testing size, which you can basically define here. So I have defined test size as 0.2, which means ki 80% of my data set would be the training data set and rest 20% would be my testing data set. And you can also pass some random set with any number, which based on that the segregation of the data will happen. So the very first thing after this we'll have to do is we have to instantiate our model, which is linear regression model, using model equals to linear regression. And then to train this particular variable or particular model, we just have to do model.fit and pass your training data set. Training data set क्या है मेरा है x train and y train. कि x ट्रेन के साथ ये सारा आउटपुट होगा, एंड बेस्ड ऑन दैट आई जस्ट सिंपली रन दिस सेल. There you will see कि my linear regression model will be trained based on the dataset which I had. Alright, so now let's see some of the other model parameters as well, like slope and intercept. So if you remember, the formula for slope and intercept were looking little scary, and but then this is how easily you can basically print the slope and intercept. You can just simply type model.coefficient, model.intercept, and then both slope as well as the intercept values will be given to you, where this is my slope and this is my intercept of my given dataset which was there. Having said that, let's now make the prediction based on our test data which was there. So first what we'll do is we will do the prediction for all our training set. So we'll assign a variable called as yTrain prediction, where we'll pass model.predict and pass all the value of x training. Same way in the y test prediction we'll pass all the values of x test. So if you remember, I had 4 different variables here: x train, x test, y train, and y test. That is something which we are using as the y-train prediction and y-test prediction. So now we have all the values stored inside this, all the values of test data is stored inside this. Now what we'll do is we'll also plot key scatter plot with color blue, give me all the prediction of x training and y training. Now again plot a scatter plot based on x test and y test in green color, and based on the x training and y training prediction, give me that regression line which you kind of had got based on this particular slope and intercept. So now if I run this cell, there you will see ki all the blue colors are my training data point, all these green colors are my test data point, and this is our kind of regression line which got generated automatically by my x training and y training prediction data set. Alright, so now let's also evaluate our models based on a couple of metrics. So we'll use mean squared error MSE and R squared matrices from sklearn. So you can simply import both of them, like from sklearn.matrices import mean squared error and R square. So just to give you an overview, is mean square is nothing but the एवरेज स्क्वायर डिफरेंस बिटवीन द ऑब्जर्व्ड वैल्यू एंड देन द प्रिडिक्टेड वैल्यू का डिफरेंसेस कितना है और उसका एवरेज स्क्वायर क्या है. सो दैट इज समथिंग कॉल्ड एज मीन स्क्वायर. तो जितना कम मीन स्क्वायर वैल्यू एरर आएगा उतना ही बेस्ट हमारा मॉडल होगा. सेम वे वी हैव आर स्क्वायर स्कोर. तो आर स्क्वायर में कि इट बेसिकली रेंजेस फ्रॉम 0 to 1, वेयर इफ इट इज क्लोजर टू 1 विच मीन्स वी हैव अ परफेक्ट मॉडल फिट. इफ इट इज लेसर दैन और मे बी क्लोजर टू 0, दैट मीन्स कि आर मॉडल इज नॉट गुड. सो अगेन आर स्क्वायर वैल्यू इज the proportion of variance of the dependent variable that is explained by an independent variable or variables in the regression model. So basically this is how you can calculate. So just to keep things in mind कि mean square error कम होना चाहिए और R square error score जो है basically closer to 1 होना चाहिए. So if I run this, so if I see कि training set पे this was our kind of mean square error, and then training set पे R square error was 0.42, but in the testing we had this was our mean square error and this was around 0.66 was our R square score. Again, this score is not that good because the data was very less, but if we give more and more data, that's when the score will basically improve upon the time. So having said that, we will also kind of predict the house prices of any given square feet. So what I have done is I have just simply have this particular function created, where if you pass the square feet, it will basically predict the price of that house. So let's say कि in my data set I don't have maybe somewhere, let's pass somewhere around 6,000 square feet. Then let's see कि what could be the price of my house. So based on this 6,000 square feet, it says that 295 lakhs would be my price. Same way you can also pass something which is any data you can pass. So I have passed that 500 square feet. Based on that, the model is predicting कि 32 lakhs would be your house prices. Alright, so with this we have also built our very first model. We have also explored the simple linear regression, and in the next video we will try to learn about these multiple linear regression model, where we'll pass not only this price but we'll also try to pass the number of bedrooms, area, age of that house, and on other features as well. So in this video, what we have understood is key, we have tried to explain the key concept of simple linear regression. We also used a simple example to demonstrate the simple linear regression. We kind of made the prediction using that model. We visualized our regression model, and we also evaluated our model's performance using MSE and R square value. So with that, we are coming to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching my content, and I hope कि आपको मेरा content अच्छा लग रहा होगा. और अगर अच्छा लग रहा है तो please like this video, like all my content, and also share these contents with your friends, family, and whoever might be interested in learning data science. Thank you so much. See you in the next video.